If you live in the United States, the chances are you've probably heard it. The shrill, anxiety-inducing sound of the U.S.'s National Public Warning System, also known as the Integrated Public Alert and Warning System, or IPAWS, are just the tail ends of a long line of smaller systems used to communicate emergencies with the public. Back on October 4th of 2023, the entire U.S. heard these sounds because of a periodic nationwide test of the system, myself included. After watching this test in real time on my break at work and combining a video I took with one my mom recorded for me back at home, my fascination with the system had been sparked. Since then, I've researched tons of information and gone down miles deep rabbit holes on various legs of the system, which leads us to me having made this video for you. So, here's how it goes. A message first originates at an alerting authority. This could be the federal, state, local, tribal, or territorial government, also including the National Weather Service. Once an alert is made, it is sent via internet to be tested against the IPAWS Open system, that is the open platform for emergency networks. Here, the alert's validity and authority is tested to ensure cyber terrorists can't create alerts of their own, and also just to ensure mistaken alerts don't get sent out. If the alert is determined to be valid, it is then sent via internet to cellular retailers, television and radio stations, and various third-party programs via plugins, all following the Common Alerting Protocol, or CAP. CAP is an XML-based portal by which alerts are disseminated to the previously mentioned entities. CAP also governs the wording of the alerts to ensure they're interpreted by the public accurately and that no confusion arises. CAP is an internationally agreed-upon protocol that some other countries use as well and is slowly expanding use around the world. Certain managing levels of consumer use communication technologies monitor the CAP feed, and if or when it receives the command for an emergency affecting its service area, it triggers the alert to be broadcast. There are a few places that can be the first public transmissions of an alert from CAP. It could be a major cellular provider, large-scale TV station, or large-scale radio station. In terms of radio, there is actually a designated network of stations nationwide that are specifically assigned with broadcasting the first warning over radio. These stations are known as the Primary Entry Point System, or PEP. This system comprises 77 radio stations across the U.S. and its territories. When a PEP station receives an alert from IPAWS CAP, the message is disseminated in a so-called daisy chain to other nearby connected stations, leading to a domino effect that in the end will trigger most, if not all, radio stations to broadcast the alert. From what I've been able to find, it seems that many radio stations not deemed a PEP do in fact use IPAWS CAP devices to receive and rebroadcast emergency alerts. However, the PEP is the overall backbone of the system, just in case lower levels fail. As for NOAA weather radio, there are 7 specific nationally designated channels used by the National Weather Service to broadcast weather forecasts and alerts. Alerts issued by them are automatically and immediately relayed to their transmitters over the internet, as those radio stations are directly operated by the Weather Service and thankfully don't have to work through butting in between public conversations and music. Television stations are outfitted with a device tied to the IPAWS CAP system, just like many of the aforementioned radio stations. Just like radio, when the station receives an alert, it is automatically played in place of the audio signal on the station. Depending on the settings and specific device used by said stations, a visual message may take up the whole screen, scroll across the top of the screen, or in rare cases might just not have text at all. The modern system that you see and or hear over TV and radio is known as the Emergency Alert System, or EAS. The EAS is actually an evolved piece of a much older technology that often goes overlooked. The system began use in 1951 as CONELRAD, that is, Control of Electromagnetic Radiation, which was used to alert the nation in the event of an attack from an enemy country, primarily the USSR. The system utilized AM 640 and AM 1240. Quick side note, this is actually what the odd symbol on some old AM radios was for. It was actually a civil defense logo. so that you could easily identify what frequencies you needed to tune to in an emergency. This system was replaced in 1963 by the Emergency Action Notification System, or EANS, which was later renamed to the Emergency Broadcast System, where it began frequent use for severe weather alerts. Within EANS was where the signature unpleasant alert tone originated that is still used today. This system was eventually dissolved in favor of EAS in 1997 to adopt a more localized system for weather alerting and other local alerts. The overall goal of these systems, dating back to EANS, was to have the president be able to speak to the public via EANS, the EBS, or the EAS within 10 minutes. In the case of the EAS, being how technology has advanced, the idea is basically just in case the president can't reach the public by any other source. In the case of a national emergency, the president would have a special code transmitted over the IPAWS system called the National Emergency Message. Prior to 2022, this was known as the Emergency Action Notification. The signal's code is EAN in the Specific Area Message Encoding System, or SAME. SAME is the 3 pulses of sound beginning an emergency alert. I could make an entire other video on just SAME itself, but in simple terms, those 3 sounds you hear are actually bursts of encrypted information that can be decoded depending on the noise received. To the human ear, it all sounds the same pretty much, unless you have a really good trained ear, but to a computer, it could space it out and figure out exactly what the message is when it looks at the specific sound waves. Anyways, back to IPAWS. In 2012, a new branch of IPAWS was launched. Wireless Emergency Alerts, or WEA, began use across the country. These alerts are communicated to cellular providers through the internet-based IPAWS system, where they are then appropriately disseminated to the affected users. The first generation, WEA 1.0, only supported 90 characters in a message. This severely limited the amount of information that could be communicated to the public, although considering it was just the first generation, it was the best we had. WEA 2.0 brought a major upgrade, boosting the character limitation all the way up to 360 characters. It also allowed for Spanish alerts to be sent to phones set to the language, allowed a wider use of the system for more kinds of alerts, and also just allowed more versatility with tests. The most recent version, WEA 3.0, boasts better geo-targeting to ensure only the people affected by an emergency receive the alert and not people outside the area. However, WEA is programmed into the phone upon manufacture, meaning an older phone made in the time of WEA 1.0 can't be upgraded to WEA 2.0 or 3.0, just as an example. Although with time, as older phones start to fizzle out of use, this issue should rectify itself. As time has gone on and phones have become more reliable, WEA has too. In recent years, it has proven itself extremely useful in many different scenarios. It often reaches people who are indoors with no TV or radio and can't hear sirens outside, or can also wake you from your sleep. It also, on more modern phones, will unsilence your phone and play the alert just to make sure that you hear it, as long as your phone's set to factory settings. And during 2020, in the height of the COVID-19 pandemic, even became a call to action in some states, like Illinois, where I lived at the time. These previously mentioned systems are just the federally run parts of the National Public Warning System. Various third-party and local-based systems exist as well. In many areas of the U.S., outdoor warning sirens are used to alert residents of an emergency.
This is a flood evacuation.
These are triggered either by city or county officials visually monitoring local emergency alerts who manually trigger the sirens, or by a third-party computerized system that itself monitors the IPAWS CAP system and will automatically trigger sirens to activate if certain kinds of alerts are issued for a specific area. Many areas also employ a cellular-based reverse 911 system operated in similar fashion to the sirens that will call or text your phone in emergencies. However, the main flaw with systems like this are that citizens have to sign up for them, something few people are willing to do. You may also occasionally find indoor warning systems like voice-capable fire alarms that can be used to communicate more than just fire alerts. Along interstates and major highways, DOTs may use electronic signage to alert drivers to check radio for details of local alerts. Something I actually completely forgot about until I was editing this video was the local access alerts, sometimes referred to as cable override. These were somewhat commonly used in the times of the EBS, with a few still chugging on today. LAAs were most widely used in cable television, where a local government center like fire or police departments would have access to override the cable signal on all channels in their town through a special panel they had in their building. With this, they could cut the feed to televisions within their community and speak live over a microphone. There were a variety of ways this system could be seen from the public's eye, with some panels just switching to a black screen, others having a pre-made message to show on screen, or just being an audio cut. Occasionally, an attention-getting tone would precede the alert as well. One of the key words in emergency management is redundancy. If one system fails, there absolutely must be backups to ensure an alert still reaches the public. This is why many people surrounding emergency management tend to get a little bit upset when someone mentions getting rid of one of the systems. Fewer systems means fewer opportunities to reach every single person affected by an emergency. Sirens can break, cell towers and radio stations can go down or be out of reach in certain areas, and even the internet can go out and hamper the use of IPAWS. So now that you know how the system works, let's go through a summary of what would happen in a national emergency. In the event a nuclear attack were to take place against the US, this is how it would play out. Once it is confirmed by NORAD, that is the North American Aerospace Defense Command, dissemination would begin. The message would be sent to IPAWS Open, where it would be immediately verified and sent along to CAP. CAP would send out the message to its feed, where all of the IPAWS receiver consoles across the country would take note of the new alert. The EAS would blare a civil danger warning to the entire country and would direct residents to seek shelter underground and stock food and clean water. The PEP stations, as I mentioned before, would be the first stations to broadcast the alert to the public, and from there it would trickle on down in a cascading manner to other local radio stations. WIA would activate cell phones across the country with a similar but shortened message to fit the character limits for the respective generations. Local warning systems equipped to warn of a hazard like this would also activate. What you see on screen now was an alert transmitted to the state of Hawaii by mistake back on the 13th of January of 2018 that caused a crapload of panic. Eventually, the President of the US would speak to the public. If they are away from a connection to the news or similar outlet, they would likely activate the national emergency message. I couldn't find anything saying exactly what the WIA alert would say, but it's safe to assume, this is a guess, but it's safe to assume it would be something to the extent of tune to local media for a national emergency message from the President of the United States, something like that. The EAS would be utilized for the President to speak live to the country over every public radio and television station. Once the President's speech has concluded, the EAS would resume its instructions to the country. So on that grim note, I encourage you, next time you hear an emergency alert on the TV or radio, hear a siren go off outside, or see your phone go off with an alert, I encourage you to take a moment to appreciate all of the technology that goes into those alerts behind the scenes. After you're safe, of course. That's going to put a red mark on my face. Damn it. Isn't it? Backbone of the system, just in case lower levels fail. I am moving the mouse around by holding it against my shirt. Whoopsie. Find a spot off to the side there. No. There we go. Alerts transit... WIA 2.0 brought a major upgrade, boosting the character limitation all the way from 3... It can often reach people who are indoors with no TV or radio to... One of the key words in emergency management... Oh, I never... Oopsie. I didn't change the prompt. One of the key words in emergency management is Get the smile to go away. Sirens can break, cell towers and radio stations can go. So now that you know how it all works, here's a summary of how... Do I have a hair on my face? There's an eyelash. Okay. Local warning systems equipped to warn of a hazard like this would also activate. Oh, wait, no. Local warning systems equipped to Local warning systems equipped... Jesus, I can't speak. Local warning systems equipped to warn of a hazard like this would also activate.